again, I'm left a bit speechless because I don't know where to begin again. I think that in many ways, well, the people there somehow, in this part of the auditorium, voiced strongly the idea that it is implausible that a conference that is about 50 years of occupation should have so many Israelis speaking here. And although in many ways one can argue, I could put arguments for and against, and that's all maybe equal, I think that there is a symptom, I like to call it foreign canvas, where something is far away from you, the problem that you think about theoretically, you can always create, arguments and stands vis-a-vis that problem that honestly just bear no relationship to the problem. And in many ways we have a double-edged, not double-edged sword, this dose doubled here, because we have two Israelis and both of them are academics. That's just like, in terms of political sort of positions, I think that is really problematic, because I'd say academics also live in a world of their own, where they theorize and they dismiss politicians. But the truth is, if you really want to resolve something, unfortunately, you have to be a political animal. You have to work politically in the world. And it's when you do that, and when you start thinking about, well, what can you forge, what can't you forge, who will help you forge it, that you start thinking in real terms as a politician. And often you will acquire a new radar for realities, what they give and what they don't give. And I think that, you talk about one state. For me, nevertheless, although you say it is an impractical situation, and I understand why you say it is impractical to partition, but nevertheless you immediately jump into imagining this alternative in the most theoretical way possible, where once we make our demand for two states collapse, immediately a nice reality somehow, effectively will always emerge in its place. But that's not true. I mean, we have a just cause, but history is full of cemeteries of people with just causes that never won their cause. People can be wiped out. What we can bring about is something much worse than any of us can imagine. We can just not be there. So the idea that just to say it's a good idea to have one man, one vote, obviously it doesn't resolve the dilemma we're facing. And the idea of dismissing, being so dismissive of Palestinian politicians. Now, I don't like a lot of Palestinian politicians. I don't think very highly of the performance of the PA. But the idea of an Israeli dismissing basically a position that is held by literally every political leader, every political party in Palestine, that's just weird, because, no matter how bad they are, how maybe ineffective they are, they definitely had an instinct for what the Palestinians want and why they want it. And their radars, their real internal radars, that are self-protective and that try and scan the location in order to tell oneself what really is plausible, are operating much better than any of our radars here for this issue. And this has to be understood. So I think until the Palestinians, and they might do at some point, have a leadership, a new leadership or another leadership that is actually wants this, asking for this solution concretely, not just intellectuals who are occasionally talking about it or discussing it, but a leadership that's really, whose grand strategy is based around this, and the people are signed up to them and elected them into office to lead that strategy. Our conversation here is pointless. That strategy does not exist. And to be honest, and maybe in answer to Selma, I totally understand where Selma's coming from with her question. And I think that I personally think that there is a hope. Well, I think that if we have one state, that literally the worst scenarios are to come. I mean, I think we are subscribing to an open-ended conflict with one state, as far as the eye can see. But I think, as difficult as it is, there is hope for the partition to work. I understand that it hasn't worked so far, but I don't think that this is an argument that's good enough or persuasive enough for explaining why it didn't. Because people jump from, well, it didn't work so far, so it's inherently unworkable. I think it doesn't work so far because the conditions have not come together to make it possible. The Palestinians, the imbalance of power has meant that Palestinian struggle was defeated, and it continues. We also, I think, on our part, just have to step up our game. We really have to be much more strategic, much smarter, and it's very difficult at a time when several generations have suffered defeat, incarceration, assassinations, imprisonment. So we really are down to ninth-tier leadership, it's true. And it's very difficult to act when you are in this position. But I don't see, I mean, personally, I really understand why the Palestinians adopted this position. And I understand that from my perspective, accepting one state at the moment is just accepting total defeat. That's what it means, you know. Basically, it means I am writing off my rights and maybe hoping that some kind of Russian roulette might act in my favor several generations down the line. I don't want to play that Russian roulette. I want to have sovereignty, and I understand that the sovereignty is, my sovereignty will be very limited and in many ways curtailed. But I do understand also that this is the fight that is facing the Palestinians, because the problem in the end isn't about geography. Like, I would like to have access to all of the historic Palestine. Many Palestinians would like to, but I would give priority to winning a battle of our ability to preserve our identity and to be able to be the masters of our own future and destiny. I don't believe that, I mean, I heard a lot of things there about South Africa, and again, I think, you know, really, all these parallels, you can always draw parallels, and I can draw parallels for and against. I mean, in the end, South Africa today is grappling with the realities, and in fact, it's not a successful model, to say the least, you know, South Africa. They forged that. It's true that it was the only way to prevent serious blood being shed in South Africa. Was the only way, because South Africa, not just Israelis and Palestinians, but 7 different groups in South Africa, all of which would argue for their own right to self-determination. So somehow that was a solution to move forward. But it's not necessarily it's not a successful solution, and has not shown it being providing stability for South Africa so far. I hope it does. You know, I hope that they will succeed one day. Yeah. But so I think whatever parallels we draw, in the end, you can draw other parallels. So the most important thing is to read the concrete map in front of our eyes, and this is how I read it.